All right, welcome back to Radio Wasteland, the best in talk radio of all kinds. I'm your host, Chauncey Haworth. This is my co-host, Kara Kittrick.
Hello.
Kara, you got any news for us today?
Yes, I do. So first, I can finally report on a conspiracy theory that I've finally been seeing a lot on the left. Namely, that the Queen of England is actually already dead, but that the royals are waiting for a more convenient time for the country to reveal her passing, given that a giant media circus and something like a week off for the entire country in the event of the death of the monarch is actually enshrined into law. Also, George V, back in the 30s, was given an enormous injection of morphine and cocaine to make him die faster, in part so his death could be announced in the morning edition of the papers. So while I might not actually put this past the royals, the Queen has been seen by multiple people. Even though there's a good chance she is dying, she is almost certainly still alive. As you've no doubt already heard, celebrity surgeon and noted long-running peddler of pseudoscience, Dr. Oz, is running for the Senate in Pennsylvania, where he does not live. He is running in large part on a campaign of ending COVID lockdowns. I don't know that there's a huge amount to say about this, but like everyone else, I thought it was funny. Like the last unqualified celebrity to run for a major political office, I will assume that he will shortly find himself in charge of the country and then enact policies that result in multiple major humanitarian crises. Speaking of celebrities, after donating 1,000 Thanksgiving meals to LA's homeless, Kanye West met with local leaders on ways to end the homelessness problem through a mix of education, jobs, and homes. As he was presenting this plan, he went on, quote, a stream of consciousness rant about the power of Jesus Christ and his plans to win over Kim Kardashian once again after their alleged divorce. And finally, a new conspiracy on the right that this Omicron variant only appeared so that Democrats could push for nationwide vote-by-mail ballots. This is, of course, nonsense, since it would require thousands of public health officials all around the world to cooperate to hype up the deadliness of this new variant just to sway politics in the US, where most of these officials do not, in fact, live. Also, the Omicron variant has so far proved to be politically toxic for Joe Biden, who ran in large part on a promise to end the pandemic. Back to you, Chauncey.
This is interesting. We got a whole ground level conspiracy list going on here in the news. It's like in the Marvel movies, you got like the world of Thor and Iron Man. They're taking on the galactic baddies that are going to destroy everybody. But then there's also like Daredevil and Luke Cage who are just cleaning up the streets. This is all ground level stuff.
Where are you going with this?
It's just shocking. Normally we have news that's just all the laser beam from SETI Alpha 5 is coming to destroy the planet and, end of the world predictions and UFO sightings. But this is all people stuff. This is all people stuff.
The Queen is already dead is tame by our regular standards.
It is. It's like, Queen already dead. It's like, the world will keep spinning through that one. Who cares?
Yeah. I mean, she's 95. She'll probably be dead in like a year anyway. But
yeah. And right when what was it? Aruba cut out. Maybe that's what killed her. Where's Rihanna from? Rihanna?
I don't know. I barely know who that is.
She is a singer.
I knew that.
Very popular with the young people.
I would have guessed singer or actress, but I think singer was.
And she's from Barbados.
Barbados. Right.
And Barbados just recently cut out of the Commonwealth, basically said we're our own country now. And
that seems reasonable.
And not only did they do that, but like the same day they announced their like first national hero, and it was Rihanna. So basically the Queen was ousted and Rihanna came in. So I'm wondering, maybe that's what like sent her, like broke her heart.
December is a classic time for declaring independence from Britain. Lots of countries chose to do it in December. Yeah, I think so. Huh. I was actually reading the other day, like the most common holiday celebrated around the world is independence from the British.
Oh, well, that makes sense. The sun,
it does.
The sun used to never set on it.
Yeah.
Man, we need one national one like planetary global holiday.
One global holiday for everyone except the British.
They'd be, we get it, it's fine, It's like, we didn't mean it.
Everything is specifically all of like the global services. So like no streaming, no anything. That's all closed on that day. Because
Right.
everyone's celebrating, and the British are just like, yeah, all right.
Well, I know this is going to be controversial, my statement, but I think maybe I want reparations from the British.
I do too. I think a lot of people deserve reparations from the British, frankly.
Yeah, that'd be funny. They'd just be all like, "Oh God, we're like broke,"
That said, though, if we start demanding reparations from the British, then plenty of people are going to have every reason to demand reparations from us. So
yes, but if it has to do with time and influence and stuff, we'll still be getting more money than we're putting out. Because
that's
we didn't nearly have the ownership. I mean, if you get into all the nooks and crannies, maybe we did, but the British, man, they had us from what, 1600 to
a couple hundred years, and then
then we're going to be paying out the nose to the Native Americans. So
right, no, we absolutely will be, but so we'll like Spain. It's basically, if this reparation scheme would just be all of the money of developed nations goes to developing nations, which is only fair because that's where all that money came from in the
but
first
then that'd
place.
be communism, and nobody's going for communism.
Yeah, nobody's going for communism. You know why? Because the aesthetics are bad. That
Right.
sort of German 1930s, everything is black and red, just.
But I got to say, with the Queen being dead, imperialism may just, that might be the final nail in imperialism coffin. Oh, no, Russia's picking up on the thing. But there is some debate about what Charles is going to do. There is some debate in this one about what Charles is going to do. My wife is way into the royals, and I don't think it's been solidified that Charles would take over as king. There's some talk of it kicking down past Charles abdicating, and William becoming king. And then there's some idea that maybe the Brits are just all, we're done with this king thing.
Oof, God, I hope so. I don't want to get my hopes up, but they should. It's like it's a bunch of nonsense.
I don't mind them keeping it around like Gritty the mascot or something,
Right? I mean, yeah,
we got Uncle Sam.
Mascot.
They got an actual group of people here that actually, in England. I don't think there was like a bloody takeover. I think it was just kind of a handover.
Yeah, well, it was just over time. Parliament got more and more power until eventually, like I think sort of towards the latter half of the 19th century, early part of the 20th century, the king basically just kind of became a figurehead.
Right. Well, all this could be probably
gradual.
Right. Okay. Well, all this could be, moving forward. They got to wear a suit of Queen Elizabeth II.
Absolutely. Yeah. A skin suit.
No, something felt, something cute. Like a big Hello Kitty looking thing with a purse and a pill hat.
So not like this necromantic monarch wearing a rotting suit of Elizabeth's skin.
I mean, I'm all right with that, but I think there'd be a lot of pushback. I think the felt suit is like more.
The British are sadly not that cool.
Right. Well, I mean, it's anybody.
Could be on a throne of skulls. Totally rad.
Yeah, right. Our new monarch is Glenn Danzig. Yeah. All right, Dr. Oz. There's a lot of weird things about this.
Yeah.
For one, Dr. Oz, his reputation is taken a hit over the past couple of years.
His reputation is bad.
Right.
Just generally.
So it's a weird time to choose
hated
to
him
run
for a long
for
time. But
yeah, it's a weird time to choose to run for something.
Yeah, I was listening
he knows his TV career is ending, and now he's like grasping at straws, or I don't know. It's weird.
I was listening to Pod Save America the other day, and they were like, "This is what you do when you can't even get on Dancing with the Stars. You run for Senate in Pennsylvania."
Yeah, and that's weird because he doesn't actually live there, does he?
No, he lives in New Jersey.
So could I run for Senate in Pennsylvania?
I don't think so. I'll bet it's something where like he has a house there or something like that.
I see.
because I mean he is like rich, so
Right. Yeah, it's
but
just
like he famously does not live there. He lives in New Jersey.
I also historically would have pegged this man as being a Democrat, not a Republican. So did he switch parties to do this?
You would think, but like he was on one of Donald Trump's councils. He had a bunch of like gay conversion therapy people on. Like he's been pretty conservative for a long time. He just has kind of an audience of like woo-woo people on the left. But
Right.
no, he's always been a Republican.
Okay,
I don't think he switched.
I don't have
a
a lot to say about this. I would have hoped that people in general would learn some sort of lesson about TV personalities.
Yeah,
as president.
I think the lesson we've learned is it makes you electable.
Yeah, I'll take a hit on Reagan. I'm not a fan of Reagan in any means, but I get that he's a hero of the conservative side.
Right.
And I don't view him as being the danger that a lot of today's celebrities would be with his celebrity status, but maybe for the time he was, and I view it as one way where people from the time maybe thought, oh, he's garish and crazy, he needs to get out of there.
Yeah. I don't know. No, I think people thought that, but like that kind of like he had been a politician he hadn't been an actor for a long time.
Right.
And like, so it was more of like an Al Franken situation.
Right. Like at least vote for Jesse the Body Ventura if you're good. Somebody who hasn't acted since the early 90s.
Right. But it's okay to switch careers to politics, I think. It's just when you sweep in and like, I don't know anything about how our country works, but I want to be in
that's
charge.
The scary part. Yeah, when people are like Dwayne the Rock Johnson for president, I'm all, no.
Yeah, he doesn't know anything.
Right. He knows one thing, and that's action movie. You want action movie as your or they're all like Oprah. It's like,
honestly, as I've gotten older, I have increasingly inclined to just an elitist technocratic view. Like, here's the thing. I have swung around. The journey in my 20s has been to just swing around to a lot of the positions I held when I was a teen. Mm-hmm. When I was a teen, I was like, people should have to have multiple advanced degrees to be president. And then as I was getting older, I'm like, that's, elitist and it's all kinds of things. Now I'm like, actually, that would be pretty nice. Degrees in political science, maybe a couple degrees in science, something like that.
I don't know if I'm ready to put that level of something on it. I would just like Americans to look at the president and say, I would like this person to be somebody who is ethically better than I am and more mature.
Yeah.
Basically in those situations where I would blow up and start cursing, I want this guy to hold his business. That's what I want. It's like, I need Americans to, regardless of if you're conservative or liberal, this applies to everybody. What you need is the most boring guy in the room who's going to get the job done. You don't need fervor. If you believe in what you believe in, you guys can team up, shake hands, and be all, we're going to get behind this guy because we believe in what we believe in. And then that guy's going to, everybody's so caught up in like swaying other people.
That's fair.
And if you live in a world where the masses can be swayed, your problem isn't which way to sway. It's really, why'd you build such non-thinker people that they're so easily swayed? Get back down to the bottom and build some people who are like able to think and aren't going to be swayed by the one TV ad that you put out where the person actually did something weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the problem with that for me is that education doesn't make people not gullible.
Maybe they all need to like spend the first 5 of their years of their life. This takes me back to being pro-abortion then.
I don't think anything makes people not gullible. I think a large segment of people are going to be superstitious and easily swayed by nature, no matter what you do with them. No matter what their life experience is, I think that's just how most people are going to be. Honestly, all people, like pretty much all people. I think that applies to. I think there are yeah. I mean, I think I'm exceedingly easily swayed, which is why it's important to have like an incredibly skeptical mindset towards your own intelligence. I think we should all live in a society where we all just hate ourselves and have no confidence in our own abilities, which I understand might not be particularly practical, but it would make people less, like, more bearable, I think.
Well, we're getting there, but unfortunately, the flip side of that coin is that people who don't hate themselves and have every degree of confidence in their abilities become all the more powerful.
That is true. That is true, which does appear to be what's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
So
no, this is tough. It's tough.
Well, I don't know. Dr. Oz.
That's a man with confidence.
That's a man with too much confidence. Moving on.
Far too much.
To another man with too much confidence. Kanye is going to solve
homelessness in LA.
Homelessness in LA. When my wife sent me this article, my response to her was, if anyone can do it, he can do it. Which was, of course, snarky.
Yeah. Well, he does actually have a long history of like putting his money into like homelessness is like his sort of pet charitable cause. He's also a loon, of course, but I mean, who cares? Like, he's not going to be the one doing the heavy intellectual lifting here. He's going to be the wallet. Like,
yeah, I wonder I wonder what his I don't know how to make this not sound uncomfortable at first, but what his pullout strategy is, like when he invests in these situations.
You couldn't have come up with any other way.
I couldn't. When he invests in these situations, are like whole groups created and like whole groups of people being taken care of, and then he goes like, oh no, now I'm gonna go make flip-flops for horses, and all that money is now pulled over here.
Right.
So I would be concerned about that. You can't.
From the article, it seems very unclear how much this is actually like happening.
Right.
All it said was like he met with some leaders, right? Which could mean that they had a very weird lunch with a very weird man where they couldn't get a word in edgewise, or it could mean there are actual plans.
Totally. We ordered room service. They brought in the cart, and then from underneath out popped Kanye. So we had this meeting, impromptu meeting.
I believe this.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to admit, though, I love Kanye.
I know very little about him.
I like his music. He was a snarky, sort of shitty guy when he was younger, but still somewhat nice. And he obviously went mentally ill, went very drastically mentally ill. And even in his mental illness is still holding down some degree of niceness, where he really has no motivation to whatsoever. And he obviously needs help, but how do you force help on rich people? I don't know.
Yeah, you can't. You need tranquilizer darts and a net. I mean,
right. Like the who's the sandpit dude from Costa Rica? McAfee. That guy was obviously mentally ill. We basically sat back and watched this. Like my daughter and wife were watching Chris Chan videos, and they eventually had to turn them off because they felt like they were taking advantage of this mentally ill person for entertainment.
Well, that's a person who's like diagnosed too.
Right. Yeah. Oh, Kanye has.
Okay. Well,
sometimes people don't need a diagnosis. It's like.
No,
when you see a guy walking down the street covered in crap pants, yelling about how his dog was abducted by aliens, no diagnosis necessary.
Look, maybe that guy's having a bad day.
Totally, just one bad day.
His dog was abducted by aliens, and he was so freaked out that he crapped his pants, which honestly is not an unreasonable reaction. Given
totally, he could be a guest on our show.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think we try not to take advantage of the mentally ill, but God, is it hard sometimes? Is it hard to tell whether people are just have weird beliefs? Because like you can be a cultist without being mentally ill. Anyone can
Oh,
become
totally. Yeah.
and I
This
feel
could
like
take it back to your swayed personality.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's most of the people we have on our show, but sometimes I wonder and I'm like, ooh, I do not feel good having you here.
Right. Yeah. No, and I support you with that. I mean, anything that's dangerous. I mean, I don't want to put it out there.
Yeah. Well, it's not that. It's just that sometimes I feel like, oof, you shouldn't be talking to us. You should be talking to
I see.
the man who
I
can
see.
prescribe something.
Right.
But I don't think that often. Usually I think these people are put together, but insane and just the way only sane people can go insane.
Omicron variant in voting.
Yeah.
So it was the right prestigious Ronnie Jackson that put out the tweet basically suggesting that the Omicron variant was to sway voting.
Yeah, and there were a couple other people who sort of jumped in on this. And it makes me really annoyed because I know none of these people believe that this makes any kind of sense, but this is going to like play really well with the base. And I hate it. It's so predictable that it's such a good strategy sometimes in politics to just say the most ridiculous thing and get a bunch of news coverage and then like get the stupid demographic on your side because they'll agree with the thing you said that got news coverage because it was so ridiculous.
Right.
It's like, it's such a predictable strategy and it works. And it's annoying to me that it works. But that's what this is, I think. It's
well, I'm going to reiterate something I've said a couple times before, but you've heard it, new audience maybe. If there is a conspiracy here, it is to kill off the old and the weak with a virus that only targets the old and the weak.
Right.
In order to further the economy. That is the conspiracy. That is the only thing that makes any sense. But to sterilize the young, there is no advantage to sterilizing the young. There's a huge disadvantage to that. If you need slave labor, you're not going to sterilize your slave labor.
Right.
I don't know how to get that across to people. I mean, start looking in the right place. You might find something there, but you are not going to find something in whatever this is. Now, is it possible that the Omicron variant came out? It's not very bad. What I'm seeing is that it's highly more infectious, but
we don't know how
less symptoms, but we don't know that. But
we just don't know.
Is it possible that a variant came out that was less dangerous, that certain aspects of the government are riding in order to push their agenda? Absolutely. I mean, sure. That's not even conspiracy level threat. That's like day-to-day spinning of media,
Right. But the thing about this is like you can't. So what's the solution, right? Like, do you want to not know about each new variant? Because they might be bad and we need to know about that information, right? Like there's no way to prevent like anyone for whom this is advantageous to spin what's happening. Like there's no way to prevent spin. It's just going to happen. So
yeah, and this takes us back to what you were saying about swaying, and this is why I disagree. I think if kids were to grow up in a world where analytical thinking was every part of every stage of things, I don't think they would be so easily swayed by these things. They'd be, whatever, it's like I'm used to taking in the data and processing the data myself, and the data has been presented to me. So you could sway it however you want, but I see the processed data and I have some understanding of what this means.
Here's my counterexample to that is that I think we do live in that world. I think people are used to solving things based on the data they have available to them, because that's called using your brain. There's literally no alternative to doing things that way. People do that every day of their lives. The problem is that people don't have good data available to them because life is so complicated that on almost any issue you care to name, it takes years and years to even have the data in front of you, to even have it in your head. in order to make a conclusion. But people don't have that much respect for how complicated life is. So they assume that what they know about a topic is all there is to know. And people do this with every single topic.
So how do we fix it? Let Jesus take the wheel?
Just let people know that they are dumb and that they shouldn't speak up on things that they do not hold professional certifications in.
Be you are dumb. You don't know anything about
Yes. Yes, just beat them into the dirt.
I don't know how many times a sentence in an argument has started for me with, like you, I know very little about this.
Right, exactly. We just gotta nail this idea into people's heads.
Right.
But life is complicated and you are not very smart.
Yeah. Well, I'm impressed with the spread of dystopian storytelling with this, though, because a lot of these conspiracies are basically retells of dystopian books.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, credit for good taste.
Right. Yeah. No, great genre. Great genre.
I'm happy that people like, Asimov and William Gibson. I'm happy that people are reading these things. Just, right. You don't know anything. Just shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. That applies to me too. Anyone who wants to tell me you don't know anything, shut your mouth. I'll be like, you got me there, dude. Touché.
Yeah, totally.
Touche.
Okay, I had one more thing I wanted to talk to you about. We both are lean liberal. One of us leans a little more than the other.
That's true. Chauncey, I know you're a communist. You don't need to.
Totally. What's your take on these lockdowns and the protests and the mandates? There seems to be a lot of sway in the world at this point with vaccine mandates specifically. I think vaccine mandates is what I'm asking about. What do you think of this?
Well, so I have some varying opinions on this. I think a lot of times liberals really like to pin all the blame on this on anti-vaxxers, which frankly is fair. Everyone needs to take the vaccine. But I keep seeing anti-vaxxers are the reason we have all these new variants, and that is not true.
No, of course not.
These new variants are showing up because the entire world isn't vaccinated, and the entire world isn't vaccinated because developing countries can't get the vaccine because, we hold patents on it and stuff. So I think that's a big thing that no one on the left or the right really is saying, we're going to do something about this. We're going to lift these patents. We're going to distribute vaccines in developing countries. No one is saying that. And that's like half the problem right there. So I just want to preface this by saying that talking about mandates and stuff, that is like only half the battle. And it's frustrating that that's only half of the battle that anyone is even talking about. But as for mandates and stuff, yeah, I think it's time. I think we've tried to be nice, but I think we've seen that way more people are not going to get the vaccine just ever than we thought. And we need to make them. We do, because otherwise the pandemic won't end until otherwise people will die. That's what it boils down to. Lots and lots of people. So, and it will drag on for years and years, and that sucks. Their right to not have a vaccine based on, nonsense information that they believe does not trump other people's lives. So, yeah, now, I think mandates for everything, frankly, at this point.
Now, a lot of liberal-leaning people don't agree with this, and I'm not sure that I agree with you either. To mandate somebody to get shots like that shouldn't be an easy decision. Now, there are other vaccines that we have mandated, and personally, I am not upset that I have the polio vaccination. My mom was old enough to be my grandmother, born in 1936, and she had polio as a child, and when she smiled, it looked like she was smirking, but it's actually because part of her face was paralyzed from polio, and so as soon as I start to say, like, no, people shouldn't be mandated to get vaccines, I do immediately come back to the vaccines that are mandated. So I don't know. I have a hard time wrapping my head around this. And And then there's a conspiracy. Sorry, you were going to say something?
Well, here's the thing for me is I see a lot of stuff like, we can't mandate this vaccine because that's like a slippery slope towards, mandating everyone beyond, this or that medication. Like that's a slippery slope to depriving people of their freedom. And I think that's an argument that really sticks in a lot of people's minds. And what I would say about that is just because we do this thing does not mean we have to do another thing, right? Like there does not actually need to be a slippery slope. It's a series of decisions, and making this decision in no way impacts our later decisions.
Oh yeah, but precedence is dangerous.
See,
Setting precedence can be dangerous.
I mean, like
in our court system, in our court system, setting precedence adds power.
That's true, but there's already ample legal precedent for, vaccine mandates. So like the precedent already exists legally. So I don't know. I really don't see the difference. I think we can make the decision that is smart today, and then tomorrow we can make the decision that is smart tomorrow. And if at some point we fail to do that, whether today or tomorrow, we'll have to deal with the consequences. But like it's not a slippery slope. It doesn't have to be a slippery slope.
Right. Well, I have another believable COVID conspiracy that I worry about with the variants. And it is not that the virus was scientifically made in a lab. It's that it came forth and people took advantage of the situation. Like you were saying earlier, we own the patents and other countries can't get to it if they can't pay for it, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And while it does kill people, in the world of deadly pathogens, it's not necessarily a high killer.
In developing countries, no.
Right. Yeah. Even in an unvaccinated population, we were seeing it kill, not, I don't know how to say this nicely, but not a huge number of people in the span of companies making profit. They're just all, okay, well, it only kills 10%, so this is pretty good. Or something like that, arbitrary number. Yeah. So the idea is we keep the rich countries vaccinated, charging them money, they're pumping money into us, and we use the poor underdeveloping countries as variant farms in order to create more and more profit that can just go on forever with a virus that has acceptable, air quote acceptable for those listening, mortality rates. Did I explain that very well?
No, I can accept that. I don't know that that's what's going on, but
I don't know that either. I mean, my job is to speculate. I'm doing it, man. I'm doing it.
Look, I think corporations will always do what's most profitable for them, because if they don't, then they'll be replaced by another corporation that is willing to do that.
It's most profitable for them not to cure it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think they kind of can cure it with a vaccine, but it's most profitable for them in many ways to not allow vaccines to be produced in other countries. To have a monopoly on the vaccine distribution. Like that is
right. But your Tdap shot is pretty much curing it. You get 3 throughout your life, and
sure. Well, so does the COVID vaccine in essence.
Well, then why are we getting boosters?
I mean, the boosters help.
The booster, no, the efficacy goes down. So here we have a virus that's basically a coronavirus, the same thing that a common cold is, a virus that we historically have a hell of a hard time curing.
No, that's fair.
And here it is mutating in a way that is scaring people and killing people. But the pharmaceutical companies look at it and say, we have an opportunity here. We have an opportunity to keep this thing at bay, but not really try to get rid of it.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean.
Now, for the audience, it's a pure speculation. I'm just coming up with it out of the storytelling side of it.
No, it sounds plausible. I think again, you run into a lot of people would have to, cooperate against their own interests to make this happen, right? I think if this were the case, you would definitely like see whistleblowers who were like, hey, I have a dozen emails showing that we intentionally made the vaccine less effective than we could have. Like that would be a sort of massive project.
Right.
And I think we probably wouldn't really be able to, the pharma companies wouldn't really be able to keep that under wraps. But honestly, I agree that it's good for them if the pandemic keeps going, and it's, good for them if they're the only people who can make vaccines. So my problem with conspiracies is usually not on the order of like, I don't think they would do that. It's usually on the order of, I don't think they could keep it a secret. There are lots of conspiracies that I believe in because they're not secret. People just are like, yeah, we're doing that. I think like fossil fuel companies and climate change, that's like a conspiracy that's just out in the open. They're just like, no, we're here destroying the planet because it is profitable to us personally. That's just smart business. Like that's what they're saying. And so it's like, this is not a conspiracy. You told us. We know.
Right. Whereas something like JFK being shot could be a conspiracy of literally under a dozen men who could have all kept that secret, and it becomes a plausible conspiracy because it is something that could be kept secret between a short list of people. But yeah, you're right. I mean, in fact, the entire planet would take a lot of hush money.
Yeah, like the biggest conspiracy I know of that like we know happened is, I think, like MK Ultra or COINTELPRO or something like that, where like people were saying it was happening in like the 60s, and then decades later we found out, yeah, it was happening. But those involved like a couple hundred people, specifically in an organization that gets a huge amount of money to like be organized in such a way that it's compartmentalized and information is secret.
Yeah.
So I think a couple hundred people in specifically an organization that is a powerful intelligence agency, that's about the limit, I think, of ability to keep illegal things secret.
Right. Well, I mean, a conversation for another time would be, is technology ruining pulp and espionage stories, noir stories?
So hard to
are we never going to see
now.
another noir story in a world where everybody knows where everybody is and what everybody's up to? Think on that. In the meantime, you've been listening to Radio Wasteland.